Charizard is leaving as Ash decides to undergo training with his new Pokemon. Also, Ash vs Bugsy happens and we see two Pokemon evolve mid-battle. To find out which they are, watch with me part 2 of the Johto saga of what if Ash fully evolved all his Pokemon. Let's start with the video. On their way to Azalea Town, the trio stops to admire a scenic lakeside town where Brock spots a girl at a cliff. Misty also spots a Marill and attempts to catch it. However, the Pokeball simply hits Marill on the head, causing it to cry out loud. As Brock comforts Marill, Ash notices the pink bow on Marill's tail and points out that she must already have a trainer. Just then, the girl that Brock saw suddenly rushes towards him and Ash and grabs Ash by the collar and begins shaking him violently, demanding to know who made Marill cry. As our heroes then explain the situation to her and she and Marill both calm down. They all introduce themselves to her as she then introduces herself as Wilhelmina. Ash asks Brock and Misty that if they could take a break here, he would like to train with his new Pokemon here, and they agree. Ash asks Brock to let Heracross and Chikorita train with Stantler as Brock agrees. This is as Misty sits with Wilhelmina as they both fish on the lakeside. Ash then sends out all his Pokemon as Brock sends out all of his, as Ash instructs Charizard to launch rocks in the sky as he asks Heracross and Chikorita to target them with bullet seeds to increase their accuracies. Seeing these, Stantler also starts launching an attack none of them have ever seen before. Pokédex describes it as Energy Ball, which is a grass type attack. Seeing this, Ash asks Brock to battle Heracross with Stantler to see what other amazing attacks Stantler knows. Brock accepts but tells Ash that let's make it a 2-on-2 battle between Zubat, Stantler on Brock's end and Heracross and Chikorita on Ash's end. The battle starts as Brock sends out Zubat as Ash decides to send in Chikorita to toughen her up against flying types. Brock calls for an aerial ace as Ash asks Chikorita to stop it with Vine Whips as Chikorita succeeds, but Brock then asks Zubat to escape the whips by dragging Chikorita around the field. This damages Chikorita, but Ash asks it to not let go and use a strong rock as a support on the ground, and then launch Bullet Seed at Zubat, which lands, damaging it slightly. This is when Brock calls for Zubat to use Bite on the Vine Whips and it succeeds in freeing itself. Ash then asks Chikorita to use Razor Leaf as Brock asks Zubat to dodge all of them and land a quick attack, which it is successful in. Ash, realizing Chikorita is in trouble, asks it to return and sends in Heracross, calling for it to land a Fury attack. Both Pokemon then clash with two strong aerial aces as Brock asks Zubat to finish Heracross with a Poison Fang, but Heracross's outer shell is too hard for Zubat to bite through as Ash asks Heracross to finish it off with a Seismic Toss. It looks like Ash has won as Zubat barely manages to get up and then starts glowing and evolves into a Golbat, as Brock asks it to land an aerial ace as Ash asks Heracross to stop it with its arms while taking some damage and land a Seismic Toss again, finishing Golbat for good this time as Heracross celebrates but is heavily weakened. Brock is happy with Golbat and recalls it and asking Stantler to go in and launch an Energy Ball as Ash asks Heracross to counter with Bullet Seed, but the attack is weaker as Heracross takes damage. Ash then calls for an aerial ace as Brock asks Stantler to use another attack as Stantler uses Hypnosis, putting Heracross to sleep midway the aerial ace. Brock then asks Stantler to use Tackle, sending Heracross crashing into the ground. This is when Ash asks Heracross to get up, and it does because of Ash's shouting as Brock asks Stantler to use its strongest attack, which is revealed to be a Mega Horn as Stantler charges towards Heracross with its glowing horns as Ash asks Heracross to head in the clash with an aerial ace. As an explosion happens and a dust cloud erupts with Stantler taking the win. This is when Ash sends in Chikorita. Brock asks Stantler to use Mega Horn again as Ash asks Chikorita to use Vine Whip to imbalance Stantler by hitting it at the legs and then land a Razor Leaf, which it succeeds in giving Stantler major damage. Ash and Brock, realizing that Pokemon are at their limits, call for final attacks on each end as Ash asks for Bullet Seed as Brock asks for Energy Ball as Stantler seems to have won with the clash ending with Chikorita on the ground, but Chikorita barely manages to get up and musters enough strength to launch to everyone's surprise an Energy Ball, catching Stantler off guard, winning Ash the battle. Brock praises Stantler as he reminds Ash that Chikorita really is amazing and tells Ash that Nurse Joy had said that that Chikorita from that area were very tough and strong-headed. Then when everyone is eating lunch, Heracross comes up and starts looking at Stantler's horns, as Brock understands this is Heracross wanting to learn Mega Horn. So for the evening, Brock lets Stantler train with Chikorita and Heracross, as Heracross at the end of the day comes out of the training having learned a new move called Horn Attack. Also in the meantime, Misty had let her water Pokemon train with Vilomina's Meryl, specifically her Magikarp, and her Magikarp had learned Tackle, shocking everyone as Misty hugs it. This is when Team Rocket interrupt our heroes just as the sun is setting, as Ash with Chikorita and Heracross's new attacks sends both Weezing and Arbok flying away with the rest of Team Rocket. Our heroes then stay the night at Vilomina's lake house and leave for Azalea Town in the morning. As our heroes hike along a path to Azalea Town, Ash mentions that with Pikachu and Charizard by his side, he could beat any opponent. But Misty mentions that he uses Charizard excessively, making most of his battles unfair. This is when Brock leans in the discussion, agreeing with Misty, and adds that overusing Charizard will stunt the growth of Ash's other Pokemons and also of Ash as a trainer. Ash is lost in thought hearing their analysis, as this is when a woman calls over to them from atop a cliff and introduces herself as Lisa, the caretaker of the Charizard Valley. Lisa knows that Ash is a Charizard as she had seen him with one at the lake when he was training earlier, and reveals that she knows more of him because of his victory at the Violet Gym too. She then goes on to inviting the group to visit the valley, stating that the strongest wild Charizards in the world are found in the valley, which makes Ash all fired up. Lisa calls out Charla, her female Charizard that helps transport Lisa, Misty and Brock in a balloon, but Lisa suggests that Ash should fly on his own Charizard. Now since Charizard and Ash's bond is much stronger than in the original canon, at this point they are able to fly together easily, as in the air Lisa mentions that the Charizard in the valley are wild except for Charla. And as they are about to reach the Charizard Valley, Lisa mentions its history and how the Charizard train naturally without humans by battling each other with this intense competition, making them the strongest worldwide. Now, like the canon, Ash being confident in himself and his Charizard wants to battle the strong wild Charizard, so Ash can not only train but also prove his Charizard's strength. So Lisa shows them all the other Charizard, leaving them stunned at their larger size. One larger Charizard walks by and Lisa points out that if Ash's Charizard can defeat it, he may qualify as a strong enough Charizard for the valley. Now, unlike the canon, Ash's Charizard is not as easily defeated, as he's able to fight toe to toe with some of them, but only for a short span of 2 to 3 attacks being launched by the Wild Valley Charizard. But he still proves to be not enough, as he falls short on all aspects of firepower, speed, strength and even durability when compared to the Wild Charizard, which makes both him and Ash recall of how they had lost to Drake's Dragonite, against Bruno, against Articuno and Suicune too. Ash gets close to Charizard and helps him get up, as both Ash and Charizard sit by each other looking sad. But Lisa stops Pikachu, Misty, Brock from heading towards them. Ash then looks at Charizard and says, "You want to get stronger, right buddy?" Charizard nods. Ash then asks him, "Do you want to get stronger than these wild Charizard? Stronger than Drake's Dragonite? Or even stronger than the legendary Pokemon we fought together?" Charizard nods again as Ash hugs him and says, "I know you want to be the strongest buddy. I know you want to be able to defeat those strong Pokemon alone. And I guess both you and I realize what is needed for that to happen," as both of them start getting teary. Ash suddenly gets up and holds Charizard's hand in his hand and says, "I raised you from when you were a small fiery Charmander to the strong individual you are today. But for both of us to reach our goals, we will have to part our ways here." As Charizard starts crying and so does Ash. Ash then shouts, "I promise to you, the next time I see you and call upon you, I will be worthy of being the trainer to the strongest Charizard in the world. But you also promise me that when I call upon you next, you would have become the strongest Charizard in the valley, if not the world." As Charizard wipes its tears and lets out a flamethrower in determination, Ash says, "We both have 10 to 11 months till the league. Let's become the strongest we can till then, buddy," as he then goes on to Lisa and hands Charizard's Pokeball to her, asking her to keep it safe as he will call for him. She promises to keep it secure as our heroes leave the valley, as Charizard roars as our heroes leave him behind till their next meeting. Outside the valley, Misty, Pikachu and Brock hug Ash, telling him it will alright and that today he acted like a great mature trainer, as all of them wipe their tears and head off to Azalea Town. Then next, Ash and gang on their way to the next gym, stop at a Pokemon Center to rest, where a schoolboy challenges Ash to a Pokemon battle with his Ready Kit. Ash though easily defeats it with his Chikorita, but as soon as Ash is done done with that battle, a trainer who was just standing at the side calls Ash a novice and states that only an amateur trainer's Pokemon has a moveset like the one Chikorita has. This makes Ash angry, but the trainer goes on to insult Ash further, stating that he could easily defeat Ash's Chikorita with his own starter Pokemon to prove his point. Ash and Chikorita feel infuriated and challenges trainer to a battle. Misty tries to stop Ash, but Brock stops her, stating he needs to learn to keep his anger down himself, stating that both of them won't always be there with it. The two trainers then start the battle as Ash sends in Chikorita as the random trainer sends in his Cyndaquil. Ash is impressed, stating he would love to have Cyndaquil of his own someday. The trainer tells him to shut up and asks his Cyndaquil to use Aerial Ace as Ash asks Chikorita to dodge it, but the Cyndaquil is too fast and lands the super effective attack. Ash is unhappy with that remark and asks Chikorita to launch an energy ball which lands but barely does any damage. Then the trainer calls for a quick attack as Ash asks Chikorita to use Razor Leaf in all directions to fault the quick attack, but the trainer guides his Cyndaquil through the Razor Leaves as he lands the quick attack. Ash, frustrated, further asks Chikorita to use Vine Whip to grab Cyndaquil and launch it in the air and then land an energy ball on it, and Chikorita succeeds. Ash, then being naive and overconfident, asks Chikorita to repeat the same strategy. Then the trainer smiles and asks Cyndaquil to use a flame charge through the air, cutting through the energy ball, this time around finishing off Chikorita, as the trainer tells Ash to grow up or drop Pokemon training, as Ash shouts he will defeat him next time when they battle. The trainer shouts, "Well, then I, Silver, can't wait to crush you and your lackluster Pokemon again," as he walks away, stating that Ash will never be a top tier trainer. Ash, though annoyed at the trainer, rushes Chikorita to the Pokemon Center, and while she is busy healing, he realizes that Silver was right, cannot win battles with just Chikorita's spirit and strength. Ash has to brush up the basics with his new Pokemon the same way he did with his old ones. Ash then decides to teach Chikorita Iron Tail with the help of Pikachu, but she is too jealous to learn from him because he is always around Ash. Chikorita then, like the cannon, runs away and also defeats the 4 fighting type Pokemon, but this time she also picks up Double Team from one of them, which is utilized in battling against Team Rocket to save Ash and Pikachu later. Ash then understands Chikorita's feelings and hugs her, while then she successfully also utilizes the whole evening trying to somewhat succeed in learning Iron Tail from Pikachu. Then at night, Ash lets her and Pikachu both sleep by her, stating that he's proud of how strong both of them are. As for the next day, a satisfied Ash unwillingly thanks the root trainer Silver in his head as they leave for Azalea Town. Now, on their way to Azalea Town, Ash and his friends are confronted by a man with a scissor who introduces himself to Ash as Muramasa. He then invites a group over to his elite trainings, and then Muramasa introduces the gang to his top student Shingo, and at his request, Ash challenges Shingo. However, Shingo sits down, opens the laptop and refuses, stating that Ash would lose according to his data on the laptop. Despite Ash's continued insistence, Shingo tells Muramasa to find an opponent that can teach him something he doesn't already know, and leaves. Ash feels insulted but controls himself. Then Muramasa goes on to tell Ash and his friends that Shingo hasn't battled in over a year because he believes he can predict any battle outcome with his laptop and needs a battle that would show him that there is more to Pokemon than just facts and figures. Ash decides to prove Shingo wrong, stating it would also end up being some great training for his next gym. Ash then proceeds to drag Shingo away from his laptop as Team Rocket interrupts, only to be defeated by Ash's Heracross, which amazes Shingo as Ash's data had said nothing about a strong Heracross. And then Shingo goes on to show his own scissor, who is called Blade. Shingo then goes on to tell Ash that his Pokemon has never been defeated in battle, making Ash remark, "Well, you've not battled someone like me then." King Shingo accepts his battle request because he's excited for the first time in a very long time. Then, like the canon, Muramasa takes his position as a referee and declares that the match will be a one-on-one battle. Shingo chooses Blade and Ash calls on his Heracross. Shingo calls for a quick attack as Ash asks to counter the attack with Bullet Seed, but Blade is too fast and lands first while evading the Bullet Seed completely. Shingo then tells Blade to use Metal Claw as Heracross then replies with an Aerial Ace which sends Blade crashing into the ground, much to Shingo's surprise, forcing Shingo to look into his laptop, while Ash asks for a Bullet Seed which Blade avoids with agility, but Heracross sends it flying into the wall behind Shingo with a seismic toss. Shingo starts to panic as he cannot look at his laptop and the battlefield at the same time. At that moment, Ash tells Heracross to use his Horn Attack as Heracross goes in and charges at Blade, and Blade tries to use Metal Claw to reduce the impact, but Heracross is too fast and strong and knocks Blade down. Blade stands up as Heracross uses Horn Attack again, but Shingo this time fully concentrates concentrates on the battle. He tells Blade to use Metal Claw as both Pokemon clash, leaving Blade's claw stuck in Heracross's hard shell as Ash calls for a seismic toss, catching Blade off guard and finishing it off, giving Ash the victory. Shingo rushes to Blade's side and Muramasa is surprised to see that he has abandoned his laptop for the first time in a long time. Shingo then thanks Ash for helping him remember how amazing battles are and promises to meet him much stronger in the Johto League after he hears from Ash that he will be challenging there. Ash agrees as Muramasa thanks him for bringing back his student by giving Ash a metal coat as our heroes leave for Azalea Town. Next up, Ash and friends find themselves lost in a forest on their way to Azalea Town as a trainer called Koji approaches the group and demands to know if they've seen any wild Cyndaquil around. Ash is instantly interested in the Cyndaquil and wants to catch it and begins searching through the nearby bushes for a Cyndaquil. Koji is irritated and storms off. Ash then like the cannon runs off to continue his search, leaving his friends behind. Ash and Pikachu soon emerge from the forest and come across a series of a rock wall dotted with many small caves. When a Cyndaquil pops out of one of them, Koji pops up at the same too. Cyndaquil then runs into the cave system to escape the two trainers. Both of them attempt to follow it. Meanwhile, Koji is able to corner Cyndaquil. However, Ash grabs Cyndaquil while still running away from both Koji and also Team Rocket. But Team Rocket causes an explosion, sending the trio of Pikachu, Cyndaquil and Ash flying out of the cave and in the feet of Team Rocket's Meowth Mecha. Ash lets Cyndaquil free and tells it to run before it gets hurt. However, Cyndaquil is startled and remains motionless due to the mech. This is when Team Rocket tries to punch it with the Meowth Mecha, but Cyndaquil's back erupts with fire and the small Pokemon launches a strong flamethrower, blasting Team Rocket away as Ash then throws a Pokeball at Cyndaquil so it will not get hurt from the explosion of the mecha. The dust settles and Ash soon spots the Pokeball lying nearby. He picks it up and throws it out, and much to his relief, he has caught Cyndaquil. Ash then commends Cyndaquil on his friendly nature and powerful flamethrower attack. Misty and Brock too arrive on the scene. Koji appears and challenges Ash to a battle over Cyndaquil. Ash accepts despite Brock's insistence that he does not have to, and even uses Cyndaquil in the battle, confident that it will use its powerful flamethrower again. But to Ash's surprise, Cyndaquil is unable to control its firepower and defeats Sandslash by evading most of its attack with its speed and landing a tackle on the exhausted Sandslash, winning it the battle. Koji then refuses to concede the defeat, recalls Sandslash and tries to steal Cyndaquil forcefully, only for the flames on the Cyndaquil's back to rise up, finally let out an impressive flamethrower, scaring Koji away. As Ash and his friends remain confused as how they will deal with such a cute yet unexperienced new friend as they leave for Azalea Town again. Our heroes arrive in Azalea Town as Ash and his friends take notice that the river has run dry because of a recent drought. Ash though wants to go to the Azalea gym, but Misty reminds him about his errand to give the GS ball to Kurt. They argue for a bit, then Brock reads a sign that says that the gym is also closed because of the drought. Thus then the group decides to look around the town for Kurt instead. Now, like the cannon, Ash steps on the Slowpoke's tail, leading to a mob of angry townspeople to chase Ash and his friends, which leads to them bumping into a man wearing a Slowpoke costume and tells them to put on some Slowpoke costumes and sit still to escape the angry mob. The man then explains the importance of the Slowpoke to the town, and then like the cannon, our heroes save the town from the drought as Cyndaquil defeats Team Rocket. And back in Azalea Town, the man then offers to take the group on a tour of the town, but Misty says that they are here to find Kurt. Ash and his friends are then left in a shock after the man takes off his costume and reveals that he is Kurt himself. Now, like the cannon, Ash and his friends talk with Kurt and his granddaughter Maisie over some drink as Ash brings up the GS ball and hands it to Kurt, but the trio are left shocked when Kurt declares that the GS ball is some kind of a Pokemon. Kurt then apologizes for not knowing much about it but reassures them that he will take a closer look as a trio updates Professor Oak about the situation and learn about Kurt's expertise in Pokeballs from him and then witness it themselves. Our heroes then accompany Maisie to a hill to learn more about Apricons, where Brock is able to catch a Pinecco, and then also Brock, Misty and Ash team up with their Pokemon to defeat Team Rocket, sending the Rocket trio blasting off again. Later, Maisie and the others return to Kurt's home. Brock asks if Kurt has learned anything new about the GS ball, but Kurt remains clueless about the mysterious item. Kurt adds that the GS ball is sealed by a powerful lock and asks if he can inspect it a little longer, to which Ash and the others agree, as Kurt then informs Ash that the Azalea gym would be open now, so Ash sets off to the gym with Misty and Brock behind him. As Ash and friends are walking to the Azalea gym, Misty, posing as a reporter, uses a bottle as a microphone and stops and asks Ash how the battle will go. When Ash declares that he will be victorious, Misty points out that it may be a hard match without Charizard on his team. Ash though states that he still has his new buddy Cyndaquil who will prove his worth. Now, as our heroes enter the gym, their footsteps are overheard by a boy sitting in a tree. He declares that his favorite type of Pokemon are Bugs. The boy asks who Ash and his friends are, and Ash announces that he wishes to challenge the Azalea Azalea Gym leader. The boy reveals that he is Bugsy, the gym leader of Azalea Gym and a bug-type specialist. Then they arrive at the battlefield, which appears flat and surrounded by trees. Battle Judge announces that the base trainer may use up to 3 Pokemon each. Now, unlike the canon, Bugsy starts with the Metapod as Ash decides to send in his Cyndaquil. Still unaware about how to help his latest catch control his fire abilities, Ash asks Cyndaquil to use a tackle, which sends Metapod flying in the sky, as Bugsy asks Metapod to use Harden multiple times, making the landing smooth for it. Ash then asks Cyndaquil to use Smokescreen, which clouds Metapod and Bugsy's vision, and then asks it to use Tackle, which again has no effect on Metapod due to the Harden. Bugsy, tired of this, asks Metapod to use String Shot, which eventually starts suffocating Cyndaquil, as Ash asks it to use Flamethrower to get free, but it can't, as just before Cyndaquil is about to go down as per everyone else, Ash talks to Cyndaquil to think of a fire inside it and then letting it get hot on the inside and then unleashing it by shouting. Ash literally guides the Pokemon through the fire attack as it works, and a huge flame erupts, blowing away the suffocating webs as Cyndaquil emerges with flames erupting from its back. Ash has finally done it. He has finally found a way to let Cyndaquil use his fire abilities at will. Ash then asks Cyndaquil to get ready and repeat what he just did and relaunch the attack as the Pokemon launches a strong flamethrower, finishing off Metapod, winning Ash the matchup. This is when Bugsy sends in Spinarak as Ash decides to switch Cyndaquil for Teddiursa. Spinarak launches acid sprays. Ash asks Teddiursa to dodge all of them, and it does so successfully. This is when Bugsy asks Spinarak to use String Shot on Teddiursa's feet as Ash asks for Teddiursa to use Aerial Ace, but Spinarak succeeds as Bugsy then calls for a Bug Bite, which is successful and effective. Ash asks Teddiursa to free itself with a Shadow Claw and then use Metal Claw as Bugsy calls for a Protect, which succeeds in protecting it from the Metal Claw as Ash asks Teddiursa to use Dig and come out from the ground using a Shadow Claw, which heavily damages Spinarak. Ash then asks for Teddiursa to land an Aerial Ace on Spinarak as it's mid-air, which is super effective. Bugsy, realizing that Spinarak has only one attack left in him, calls for a Bug Bite as Ash asks Teddiursa to counter it with a Metal Claw and take the bite on his arm, sending both Pokemon to the ground. But suddenly Spinarak begins to glow and evolve into an Ariados as Bugsy asks it to use a new move called Sword Dance, which raises its attack as Teddiursa recovers from the previous attack. Ash realizes that he has to ask Teddiursa to put all of his strength in one attack, asks Teddiursa to break the ground with Metal Claws and then jump through the debris and land an Aerial Ace as Bugsy calls for Ariados to land a strong Bug Bite as when the debris settles, Teddiursa and Ariados both are knocked out cold as Ash thanks the beer Pokemon and sends in Chikorita as Bugsy sends in Scyther. Ash calls for Wind Whip, but Bugsy's Scyther uses Sword Dance in such a way that it protects it from any attacks from the sides while raising its attack stats too. As once the Sword Dance is done, Bugsy calls for a double team as this startles Chikorita and Ash on which Scyther to attack. But Ash smiles and asks Chikorita to use Double Team and Energy Ball in combination as a clash of after images ensues and Chikorita manages to land an Energy Ball on Scyther. Scyther though retaliates with a wing attack, which is not only super effective but also a critical hit. Ash asks Chikorita to get up and use Wind Whip as Bugsy asks for Fury Cutter, which cuts through the Wind Whips and sends Chikorita flying into the tree on the one end of the field. Ash grunts as he asks for Chikorita to get up and she does. This is when Bugsy decides to finish off the battle with a wing attack, which Ash asks Chikorita to counter with an Iron Tail, which succeeds just at the last second, but then the two Pokemon clash again with the same attacks and this time Chikorita starts to glow. Ash celebrates and everyone is shocked to see a second mid-battle evolution as Ash calls for Wind Whips to hold Scyther and the glowing Chikorita does that, and then Ash calls for multiple energy balls on the stuck Scyther as the glow ends with Bayleaf emerging with a knocked out Scyther between its whips because the whips were stronger due to the evolution and the energy ball too. Scyther could not handle being hit by multiple energy balls. As Ash goes on to hug Bayleaf and they celebrate Ash's victory, the referee says that Scyther is unable to battle and declare Ash the winner. Bugsy congratulates Ash, poses with his second Johto League badge, while Bugsy asks Ash for a rematch if he ever returns to Azalea Town, and Ash gladly accepts the challenge. The pair shake hands before Ash and his friends leave to continue their journey. When Ash and his friends are about to leave Azalea Town, they realize that they're forgetting something and are quick to remember the apricons they had left with Kurt, as this is when Maisie comes in and thanks Ash and his friends for delivering the GS ball to Kurt, also hands over to them some new Pokeballs before waving goodbye to the group. So that's all for this part. Tell me in the comment section what you thought about it. Also tell me around what gym would you like Ash to catch his Eevee and his Snorlax. Apart from that, thanks to all of you for supporting and showing so much love to the last video in this series. It means a lot, and keep an eye out for the Pokemon manga video. I know it's been delayed, but that is because of the tough editing that it requires. So till then, like, share, subscribe, and let's get to 2000 subscribers. Thank you so much guys. Peace, Dragon Guide.